Hey everyone, welcome to Kempner Canucks. Today we're going to be diving into pros and cons of Pettersson. Should the Vancouver Canucks trade or keep Pettersson? Yes, you heard that right. We're going to dive into the conversation about trade talk. Now, this is the biggest topic that's happening in the last month, I would say. Now, it's been going on for a while, but I love to produce Canucks content. It is passionate, realistic, and honest. And if you like that kind of content, please hit the like and subscribe. That would be awesome. So what camp do you live in when it comes to Pettersson? Are you in the I want to see what Pettersson does under Manny Malhotra kind of stuff? Or are you in the camp where you want to say, I've seen enough. He needs to go. Trade EP40 before the season starts. Okay, I want to know what camp you're on, so post it in the comments. And don't worry, I won't hold it to you because this is the summer and you can change your mind, but there are pros and cons to each one. And before we dive in, I just wanted to say a big thank you so much for listening and engaging in my with my content. I so desperately want the Vancouver Canucks to rebuild this team properly. And I believe that this fan base, with all the ups and downs, that we deserve a Stanley Cup victory. We have so many faithful and incredible fans. Think about it. The fact that you are listening to this after we had one of the worst seasons in franchise history means that you are a diehard fan. You should give yourself a clap or a pat on the back. Most fans are fickle fans, but you, my friend, are faithful. And we deserve better than what this team has produced. So we need to rebuild this team the right way because there's a huge difference between being a playoff pretender and a cup contender. Obviously, everyone wants to be a cup contender. That's the goal for every franchise. But the Vancouver Canucks have finally decided to rebuild. They should have listened to Trevor Linden years ago when he was the president of hockey operations. But our owner, with general manager at the time, Jim Benning, sided with each other, and the rest is history. Side note, I've always wanted to launch an audio podcast, but didn't know how. Now I'm amped to up to just do these audio podcasts. And don't get me wrong, I'm still in love with doing my video content too, but I so appreciate those who follow my content, whether it's video or audio. Granted, a lot of my video content will become audio content too, but I'm going to make special audio only and video only Kempner Canucks content. And apparently rating and reviewing regarding podcasts, audio podcasts, it goes a long way for my work to get there in the algorithms. So if you don't mind pausing this to do that, that would be epic. Okay, enough of that. I figured you'd like a little behind the scenes thought process. Now, here's the big question, right? They got two questions today. Are you the I want to see Pettersson, what he does under Manny Malhotra as our new head coach person? Is that who you are? I've been saying for years, I think Elias Pettersson is a talented hockey player. He's an elite level passer. He's an elite level defensive forward, and he has shown that he can put up significant point production in the NHL. I loved watching him play on the right-hand side of the power play, ripping pucks at the net off of those beautiful one-timers. But those were the good old days. And some say that he has injured his wrist and he's unable to do that effectively anymore. I'm no doctor, but he does not play with the same confidence he once had. And if he's actually playing through an ongoing injury, I get it. And this is why I wanted to do I wanted the Canucks to land Ivar Stenberg at the draft, because I do think that they play really, really well together, and the rookie can help Pettersson play better. I know that sounds really sad, right? When you think about it, a rookie can help Pettersson out. And when I saw all the reports that San Jose was going to select Stenberg at 2, I knew that Caleb Malhotra was going to be the Canucks pick at number 3, and they couldn't land the winger to play with Petey in Gavin McKenna or Stenberg. But they were going to go with that top-rated center in the draft. And I don't blame them for that strategy, even though I would have probably gone with one of those right-handed shot defensemen, the elite ones, Verhoff or Reed. But solid centers are really hard to find, so I don't agree with our new general manager, Ryan Johnson's decision. I just really hope Caleb pans out. And what I mean by pans out, that he'll be as good as Bo Horvat or better, or hopefully better. But we'll see. We'll see. And in my top 10 NHL draft predictions, I got 5 out of 10 selections right, which was pretty good if you think about it. I'm pretty happy with it because in every NHL draft, my apologies, some team goes off the board and picks someone that you didn't expect. And we saw that with the Buffalo Sabres. Daxon Rudolph picked, and then the Rangers went and got Albert Smits over Karls and Reed and Verhoff. I was very surprised. And they might be right. I mean, there were at least 4 or 5 great defensemen, and they all went in that first top 10 picks. So it's crazy, absolutely nuts. So once the draft happened, I turned my attention to free agency, and I made a video about the Canucks going after Kuzmenko, because Pettersson's best year was Kuzmenko's best year. Kuzmenko and Pettersson both scored 39 goals. Yes, you heard that right. 39 goals each. And that was Pettersson's 102-point season. And that was Kuzmenko's best season in his rookie year. And I understand that I'm hoping that past success would be present success. And it's a long shot. I get it. But as a Canucks fan, I feel like I'm getting desperate to see some kind of positive Pettersson production. But the Canucks didn't want to go in that direction. Kuzi signed a $5 million one-year deal with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and Vancouver took that money and gave it to Big Rig Jamie Oleksiak and in a 2-year deal, and Luke Schenn to come back to the Canucks for a third time. But can Pettersson, under our new head coach Manny Malhotra, play better? What does that even mean? Will he bounce back to a 90 to 100-point season? Heck, I'll even take anywhere north of 80 points. So 80 to 100? Can Manny help Petey? Well, if he stays and he doesn't get traded, that will be one of Manny's top priorities. But Manny is talented at developing young prospects, and Pettersson is no longer a spring chicken. So hopefully he can play better. I mean, I think, no word of a lie, you can't get any worse than last year, right? I don't think that Adam Foote, and this is no disrespect to him as a person or a player, I don't think he's a great head coach. I think he's a great assistant coach. And I don't know why they moved him in. Well, I guess I do know why. They wanted to keep Quinn Hughes. But Manny Malhotra, in my opinion, and I would say most people's opinion, is a big upgrade over Adam Foote. And so we will see. We will see. But let's be honest, okay? Who is Petey going to play with? Who will be his line mates? At the moment, it's going to either be Jake DeBrusk or Lekkerimäki on the left wing, and either one of Linus Karlsson, or Brendan Gallagher on the right-hand side, okay? But is that going to be good enough? It just doesn't feel like it, right? But when it comes to Petey, you are confident and say, like, are you really confident and say, I've seen enough and he needs to go trade EP40 before the season starts? That's the second option I want to talk about today. I've been called a Petey hater. And I get why people say that about me, but I disagree with how our society can't seem to handle criticism. When former general manager Patrick Allvin and former president of hockey operations Jim Rutherford offered Pettersson that massive contract, They warned him that the expectations from others increased. What we didn't expect, that he was going to have his lowest totals of his career, and the excuses are literally exhausting. I made a video of it scrolling through all the excuses, and I keep adding to it because it's just horrific. And who knows if any of these excuses are actually valid, but I don't think that Petey will bounce back in Vancouver. I hope he does. I've been saying that for 3 years, that we should have traded him. And hindsight 2020, I was right. Since signing the largest contract in Canucks history, it's, let's be honest, been horrific. He's put up the worst numbers of his career while earning $11.6 million a season, which was top 5 NHL money at the time. But let's also be honest, no one should be happy that he's making that kind of money and he's only producing 45 points and 51 points in the last 2 seasons, because that's unacceptable. Now, I've seen enough. I don't think he's going to have a revenge tour that everyone says was going to have. I've seen all the Petey police out there trying to get everyone to write out these apology letters to Petey. And I'm like, guys, he should be apologizing to us. He should be apologizing to us. He has been robbing this franchise of $11.6 million. He has not earned his paycheck. Okay. But I don't see a playoff performer in Petey. I don't think EP40 leads us to win our first Stanley Cup. Does that make me a hater? Or does that mean that I'm just being honest by what I'm seeing? I'm not impressed by his demeanor. I can't stand his recent point production. And I know that he's playing well defensively, but he's not getting paid $11.6 million a season to be an elite defensive forward. He's got to produce points. Does he help this rebuild? What can we get for EP40, who's honestly interested in him and his crazy contract? Do the Canucks need to retain salary to make the trade happen? A lot of people are convinced of that. Well, let's talk about the options, right? The people that we've heard has been interested in Elias Pettersson. The Carolina Hurricanes, the Stanley Cup champs. A few years ago, the big report was the deal was Nashis, Kotkaniemi, Scott Morrow, and their first-round pick for Petey, and apparently our owner, Aquilini, blocked it. It sounds like our management basically pressured Petey to sign the extension, or they're going to trade him to Carolina because he didn't have a no-movement clause yet. Hindsight 2020, we should have taken the deal with the Carolina Hurricanes. Question is, would Petey have his first cup before we did? The LA Kings. The Kings were of interest in a center as Kopitar, after 20 seasons, has retired. Can we just stop for a second and think about that? 20 seasons. Imagine if Caleb Malhotra plays for the Canucks for the next 20 seasons. That would be considered a huge, successful draft selection. But apparently, reports were saying that the Kings have made an offer to Vancouver for EP40, but the offer was way lower than what the Canucks would consider. And I'm glad they didn't do that deal. Now, the other team that was rumored to be interested in Petey, the Detroit Red Wings. By the way, they just fired their general manager, Steve Yzerman, the legend, the man, the myth, the legend. This guy is one of the greatest players in hockey history, and he struggled with the Red Wings. 7 seasons, I believe, as the general manager, and they've not made the playoffs in a decade. But we haven't heard what the details of the conversation was between Steve Yzerman and our Canucks management, but obviously nothing materialized. And then just recently, we've had the big conversation about the Pittsburgh Penguins and Penguins analyst Tyler Kennedy was hearing that the Penguins had shifted their attention to trying to acquire Elias Pettersson from Vancouver. Now, Kennedy also said that Vancouver wants Ben Kindle in return, and that's why this whole trade rumor or conversation, negotiations crumbled. They're not willing to do that. Penguins insiders are saying that they're focused on trying to trade for EP40. But what are they trying to give up for him? Are they offering us Novak or Graves? No, thanks. Those guys aren't going to help our rebuild. It's just basically a salary dump at that stage. And I'm not interested in that because I think we got to get something in return for Pettersson. When I ask Canuck fans and our Canuck fan base on my socials, what would you want in return for EP40? At least 70% said trade him for a bag of pucks, which is horrible hockey business, right? Now, if Pittsburgh is truly interested in Pettersson, why in the world would they not be giving up a 19-year-old third-line center in Ben Kindle? Wouldn't that make the most sense? Because you have to give up something to get something, and maybe Kindle becomes something, or maybe he just had a good rookie campaign then where he got 35 points. Listen, the Hurricanes, the Kings, the Red Wings, and the Penguins all believe that Petey will bounce back, because if they didn't, why in the world would they express interest in obtaining him? Now, I get that they're trying to get him for very cheap because he comes with a high price tag and he is a major risk that he's just going to stay the same. So do you want to trade Pettersson? I'm in that camp, but I still do want something in return that will help us rebuild. I don't want to just give him away for nothing. I still think he has value. And if we have to retain on his contract, that would be brutal, because off his 8-year deal, he still has 6 more seasons. That's a lot of money, right? And all the pro Petey people continue to bring up who Petey has played with, and that's one of the reasons why he's struggled. And I know that they don't think that Höglander, Mikheyev, P.S. Suter, Garland, DeBrusk were good enough. They weren't good enough. Side note, Mikheyev, he scored in his 2 seasons in Vancouver. He had low goal totals. In 2023, he only played 46 games, but he had 13 goals. And then the following year, he played 78 goals and only had 11 goals. So 78 games and only had 11 goals. I believe most of that year he played with Pettersson. So in Chicago, Mikheyev scored 20 and 18 goals, and now he's on Tampa Bay, on the Lightning, probably playing on the 4th line. But my rebuttal to the pro Petey line argument is, what about when he played with the great Swedish line mates at the Four Nations Cup and the Olympics? At the Four Nations Cup, he played with wingers Kempe, who I'm a huge fan of, and Forsberg, who has played incredible in the NHL. And then the Olympics, he played with Philip Forsberg and Lucas Raymond. I'm sorry, but those players are very solid, and he still struggled. So why did Pettersson play well with Besser in the past? But lately, the line that former Canucks head coach Adam Foote tried to have this great chemistry, and he forced this line over and over and over last year, was DeBrusk, Pettersson, and Besser, and it didn't work. The Lotto line back in the day with JT Miller, EP40, and Besser was one of the best lines in hockey a few years ago. So basically, Pettersson's played great with Kuzmenko, JT Miller, and the past Brock Besser. Basically, Brock Besser plays really great with JT Miller. So he's had flashes of good moments with Niels Höglander, who is no longer on the team and has been traded to the Nashville Predators. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter what other teams want and what the Canucks can get, because Pettersson holds the cards. Elias is in control of his future. That no movement clause is his trump card. And why does an EP40 want to stay? What is it about Vancouver that he loves being here? Because he's buckling under the pressure. Does he just love the city that much? Does he just have a good friend base? Because he can't be loving the pressure. He can't be loving struggling here, right? Why would he want to stay in Vancouver to rebuild? When will this team be competitive again? When are we going to make the playoffs again? He's been a part of 2 years of losing. How many more years does he want to lose? This could be a long process of rebuilding, 4 to 6 years or more to come. Hopefully not. Now, I'd love to know if you've listened. Please post a comment on these podcast platforms or reach me on my socials. And if you could share this with your Canuck friends who love podcasts, I would really, really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to making more content just like that. So if you want to follow Canucks content that is passionate, realistic, and honest, please follow my content. And you don't have to agree with everything I say, and I don't have to agree with everything you believe either. But we can agree when there are differences. We can agree to disagree. Let's be loyal Canuck fans. Let's believe in blue. And let's get excited about this rebuild. Let's see what they're going to do with Pettersson. And let's continue to cheer each other on. And, of course, this Canucks team. Go Canucks, go.